or men or families from the circumstance they were in into something that was much safer, much cleaner, and a much more dignified response to a human's needs.
Why is homelessness and the surrounding problems the focus for you?
When I first heard about homelessness in Southern Nevada, I thought, and it was while I was in school, I can remember thinking, are we going to talk about anything else? There are people who are facing medical issues. There are children being abused. There are women being raped. There are refugees who have no home and no country. Certainly we can have other conversations. And then I started working with the very poor elderly, and I met a homeless senior. And so then I kind of thought, well, I can understand how important it is to help because this is a senior. And then it was a man, and then it was a family, and then it was a child who'd been literally thrown out of their family. And my eyes were completely open, and I thought, you know what? This is really a circumstance that it's, oh, but for the grace of God go I. Anybody at any time can be in a situation that things happen beyond their control. They can lose everything, or they didn't have anything to even begin with. And a roof and a home and an address doesn't make a person a person. It's their soul, it's their dignity, it's their life breath in them. And we as another person have to see that and respond to that. You look in the eyes of the homeless, you have to be changed. It's impossible not to be.
I'm going to describe two hypothetical viewers for you.
Okay.
One of them is very well financially. They're educated, they're doing well in their career, they have lots of savings. It's unlikely that they will ever experience lack or fear of lack even in their entire life. They're going to leave a pile when they die. The other person is someone who may not be educated. Maybe they're struggling. It's all they can do to get dinner on the table each night. Neither of these two people has ever done anything for anyone outside their own narrowly defined self-interest, which might include their spouse and children, but nothing beyond that. Why should they serve someone or something outside themselves?
The opportunity to, in our mind, switch places with somebody, that's a scary thing. But our health can change. Our things that we were counting on, whether it's family, bank accounts, retirement accounts, real estate values, all those things can switch on the turn of a dime. And sometimes people that I met from around the world, they still had property that was valued, but the government changed and they still lost everything. And so brilliant, educated university professors came to America as maids. And people that are maids now might have never graduated high school. And you think that they don't have anything to give. They have everything to give. Sitting and talking with somebody and hearing their story is a very empowering thing. You don't even have to give them something other than your time. So switching places for just a moment, or opening your mind to the what if. What would it feel like if I slept on a sidewalk? What would it feel like if I had to go and ask for something to eat for breakfast? It's very humbling. It's very amazing, humbling transformation if you genuinely in your head think, that could be me.
And so what would they get out of having that kind of an experience?
No matter how much they give, whether it's time or clothing or money or food, the feeling that you've helped another human being on their way is immeasurable. And it's contagious. They want to do more. They want to see them more. They want to help more. They want to know how the story ends. Sometimes you don't get to know how the story ends, so you just keep finding people to help even more and more and more.
One of the viewers is inspired by what you've just said, but they're afraid. They've never experienced it. They're not going to make it their life the way you have.
Yes.
At least not to start.
Yes.
They'd like to get your toesies wet kind of an experiment. What can you suggest?
take somebody else you know and go serve in a soup kitchen, or put together sandwiches and bring them and drop them off at one of the shelters. Go to one of the faith communities for one of the projects. Shoes, back to school events, any of the things that reach out. Go with somebody you know so that you feel empowered and safe, and both of you are going to fall in love with the work at the same time.
Please describe the process of your own call to serve.
I became Catholic in 1988, and literally from the very beginning there was that opportunity and expectation that I would serve, whether it was our own community or somewhere in the neighborhood, that there was social action and social justice, and that was the next step. If you were going to be Catholic, you were going to be involved. And so I got involved, and it was like free falling off a cliff to me. It wasn't the first time I'd ever volunteered. I had volunteered many times. But with the commitment that I was being called to live out my faith, and in many cases to not use words, that was a whole different experience. And so from 1988, working in Sicily, Italy, to then returning to the United States and doing even more work in Sedalia, Missouri, and then coming here and leaving a pre-med route behind me, and because of my faith and because I knew I was supposed to help people, it was impossible for me to say, gee, I want to go work at this sales job, or I couldn't do it. I could not get through the process of saying I'm going to abandon this feeling that I'm supposed to go help people, and in a big way help people, not it wasn't going to be enough for it to be 1 day a week or 2 days a week or 2 hours a week. It wasn't enough. And so if I had to describe my calling, it was the strongest urge to go and do something against all odds, with someone, with my spouse's support, or against it. Although my husband has been amazingly compassionate and giving, and stood by my side through all of this and more, and my children as well, that are all now grown. It became a family involvement, not just my calling, but our work. I could not sleep. I could not ignore it. It is impossible.
Is there a way to self-generate a calling?
I think that we're each called to use our talents and our gifts in some way. And whether it's photography or storytelling or music, and there's some way to help others benefit from the talents that we have. So it isn't going and learning something new specifically. It's finding the right place for who you already are, what you already want to offer. So I don't know that it's self-generated. I think the Creator made you the way that you are, and made me the way that I am, and has a pathway for each of us to go and share what talents we have in some way.
You mentioned that the studies that you did in ethics was required for you to move up, or to be highly of service in this business. What education specifically has been required for you to move to the new positions you've gotten?
The educational component really came in for the human trafficking, talking about what the United States laws are and why they were developed and who they applied to. That was a bunch of rhetoric, but when I actually saw the investigation and the raid and the rescue, and then the change happened for each person in each circumstance here in our community, that's when the policy work made sense. The education in policy, the education of how government acts and how policies are made, and amended, all of that. Otherwise, I would have been so frustrated. I wouldn't have been able to continue the work for more than a decade before stepping aside. The images you see when you're doing the rescue work, it's too much to bear. You can't figure out why a human would do that to another human. Why you would do that to a child. Why you would pay money for a human being and act like they were a bag of flour to be used over and over. And once I got to the place that I could not be logical, that I could not be rational, I knew that I had served what I could do. That 11 and 12 years of doing the work was as much as I could do for them. I had to step back and find some of the stories unfold from a distance where it wasn't me standing there and feeling that horrible moment. Did I do everything I could? Did I say everything that I could? Did I miss anything? It was overwhelming to be in that place where one mistake meant someone's life, or 5 someone's, or 9 someone's, and there's no second chance.
Educate us a little bit about human trafficking.
Human trafficking is either for the sex trade or for the labor, domestic labor, to use someone's body to make money or to be your servant. The first and most of the people I worked with were from other countries. When I say worked with, I mean was a part of the discovery and the rescue and the journey toward wholeness. And then eventually it was mostly girls and some of the boys involved in the sex trade here in our community in Las Vegas. But the stories were the same. It was against their will. It was against their future. It was for someone else's monetary benefit, no matter what the promises that were made at the front, whether it was to their family or to the person themselves, to the young person themselves. And the younger the kids were, the less, the farther it got from reality. That if people knew, if people understood what was going on behind closed doors, they would not be able to sit still. They would not be able to allow one more second to pass without doing something.
So that's what I'm asking you to educate us about. Scare the bejesus out of people like me. How many people is it happening to, and what's happening?
Boy, the how many is the same as before. A lot of young people, a lot of women. And what happens? Well, the story is different for every single one, but they're expected to perform sexual acts to people that are lined up, that have paid someone else to have their sexual gratification with somebody's body. And it's not sexy. It's not wholesome. It's not consensual. Even though he or she isn't trying to run away, it isn't any longer a choice. If they don't cooperate and don't participate, they're beaten, they're burned, they're tortured, they're tormented, they're starved. Their family, they tell them that they're going to threaten their family, hurt the things that are the most precious to them.